My name is David Tochterman. I'm a consultant for the Berkshire International Film Festival. This is the next in our series of Tea Talks, where the festival hosts these sort of conversations with industry professionals to talk about the entertainment industry, as well as how it all affects the world of film and independent film. Our guest today is Albie Hecht, a longtime friend of mine. We've known each other well over 20 years, and his various incantations, which he'll tell you about at Nickelodeon and Spike and Headline News Network and the documentary films that he's worked on, and most recently, the creation of one of the most forward-thinking media companies in the space, which is called pocket.watch, which he will tell us about. So Albie, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here, David. Excited. Berkshire's a great festival and in a terrific area of the world, and it's excited to share my experiences to the best as I can with this audience. Thanks.
You bet. Albie, if it's okay with you, why don't we start with sort of your road from Nickelodeon to being at the forefront of where media seems to be heading in terms of, you know, the way franchises are being created for audiences that are not necessarily happening in theaters or on television.
Sure. I was president of entertainment in Nickelodeon for a number of years. I had the great fortune and pleasure and excitement to bring and develop SpongeBob, Blue's Clues, Dora the Explorer, the Kids' Choice Awards, LEMONY, SNICKET, Snow Day, a movie near and dear to me, and all that, Keenan and Kel, and other shows to the Nickelodeon audiences, Nick Jr. audiences. And during that time, as you mentioned, franchises, we were fortunate to found a franchise process by which we had everybody on each team represented in helping to choose a franchise property and then develop it with elements from each of their areas that would help imbue it with those things that would make something into a global franchise and a pop culture icon. And we did that successfully with SpongeBob and Blue's Clues and Dora, and learned a lot through that. And then I always really went from my career as a producer before that, where I created and produced Guts and the Kids' Choice Awards, and was to follow audiences. So where's the audience going, David? Like, what are they interested in? What are they doing? Who are they? And then follow the talent in front of and behind the cameras, so to speak. Like, what is exciting talent nowadays? What are they working on? What are they doing? And that sort of enabled me to, I think, stay ahead of the game and stay fresh and stay involved in what was coming and what's new and what's next. You know, after Nick, I went and founded and created Spike TV. I was president for a number of years. That's which is now the Paramount Network, and that I thought was an opportunity for me to exercise the over 13 part of my brain, but as a sort of men's channel at the time, they really didn't want the over 13 part of my brain anyway. So we successfully launched it.
Nickelodeon in many
exactly. So it was good. It was a good change of pace. We launched that. We you know, had a lot of success there as well with Joe Schno, which was the first faux reality show that was out there, and MXC, this mock game show, Pros and Joes, and other shows that sort of pushed that into the limelight. And then I again followed the audience, became head of CEO, founder of Worldwide Biggies, which was a digital entertainment studio. The idea was, again, following the audience, seeing that, to me, the next SpongeBob was going to come out of the digital space. And so that digital entertainment studio was venture funded. So I got my first experience with venture capitalists and private equity and investors, and went on a wild ride there. Had a couple what I call singles and doubles with my worldwide Fido site about dog videos, pretty successful, which we then sold to Nickelodeon, and a Princess Bride game in conjunction with the anniversary of the movie coming out, and learned a ton. Took that actually experience to be head of CNN's Headline News, which was again following audiences, which are then getting news and information from social media, and made a big play for HLN to become one of the home of news, social media news. Founded the Daily Share there, which was successful in its launch on Facebook. Had a good ride for 2 years, and then again went off on my vision quest, and came out to feel like I wanted to go back into kids entertainment. You could see my grandkids' COVID art gallery here, and this is really great sprinkled toast. And they inspired me again to get back into kids entertainment, and that's where the energy was, what we call, what's being called Generation Alpha, kids 8 and under, and really they're looking at their world where 80% of their viewing was YouTube, where being a YouTube star replaced being an astronaut or a president as their number one choice to be as an adult. Watching on mobile devices, seeing that behavior, I just knew that we needed to again reinvent kids entertainment in a different place, and joined up with Chris Williams, who had been successful at Maker Studios and founded Pocket.watch, which is our digital entertainment company that takes the stars of Generation Alpha and turns them to global franchises by surprising and delight Generation Alpha with the endless possibilities of their digital world. That's my journey along the way. I was at Sundance with award-winning documentary films with my nonprofit Shine Global, War Dance, INOCENTE won an Academy Award. So my pro-social side is active, and to this day, we've made 16 films in 15 years. And that's been a constant in my life as well.
We've certainly seen, we certainly watched how the industry has continued to evolve and progress, and you have been at the forefront of a lot of it. Right now, obviously, there has been a tipping point in terms of how media is reinventing itself, not only because of the pandemic, but because of the power of technology and consumer choice. I thought it was interesting this week that there was news about now Pixar is releasing their next film online, which has caused a lot of questions being asked about how is the entertainment experience evolving for global audiences, as as opposed to films being seen in theaters versus films being seen online. And Pixar certainly, as one of the broadest children's and brands out there, is now being online. How do you see that? How do you see that implication affecting not only what you're doing, but where the industry seems to be going right now?
Well, first of all, I'll say that, at the essence of it is still story and character, and making films, making, features, whatever they are, with great stories and characters. So whether you're seeing them on your computer, on your home theater, or in a theater, that still has to be at the core of it. And of course, Pixar is the top of the game there. I don't really think it matters, frankly. I don't think that I think the releasing of the films at home just can actually make it broader and bigger for people to view these things, and easier and consume them. But I still feel they'll be eventually back to a place of going to the movie theaters. Always going to be, and I want there to be, maybe that's popcorn movies, what I call, where you really want to see them in a movie theater and experience them in a movie theater. And I think, again, video didn't kill the radio star. Radio is bigger than ever. Cable is not dead. I mean, the old new media reinvents the old media in some way. So I think the streaming services, Netflix and the rest, who are showing these films at home, will just force the theaters to reinvent themselves, whether they're more of an eating experience as well as an entertainment experience, whether they're, a gathering place, whether they're 4D, 5D, Metaverse experiences. I think what it'll do is force the theaters to reinvent themselves the way radio and television and cable and internet have done before.
wonder what we think that might look like. I mean, there's, what theaters can actually do to reinvent themselves right now, right? I mean, as you said, sure, they can offer enhanced, dining. I think there's already been, right now going to a theater, most of the modern theaters is pretty nice. I mean, nice big seats, they recline. I mean, it's almost like they want you to have the home theater experience now when you go to a theater. So
Mhm.
I'm just curious to know if you have any other ideas about how you see these theaters being able to reinvent and get people back in.
I think, I mean, one way would be even more of an evening experience instead of a 2-hour experience. So like our local theater in Montclair, I live in Montclair, New Jersey. Um, the theater down in the center of the village is being reinvented, but it'll have a bar and a restaurant and a theater. I think the idea of going to a place where you're having dinner and drinks and then going to a movie, or going to a movie and then having drinks to talk about it, keeping people in the theater environment longer with more things to do, will be one way to go. I think technology will drive another way. I think there'll be you'll go to the theater, you'll be able to see a linear movie, or you'll be able to see an interactive movie, or you'll be able to enter the metaverse through your Oculus experience there, or renting an Oculus experience. So I think technology will drive another type of theatrical experience as well.
You brought up, the world of documentaries earlier, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. I know that, documentaries are a big part of the programming for the Berkshire International Film Festival. It's always been one of their most successful programming. Right now the streamers, are comparatively risk averse, right? I mean, they have a big tent strategy. How do you see, like, how do you see the world of documentaries now as compared to when you started creating all these great documentaries through Shine? I mean, it's a little bit of a different universe now because streamers have created a lot more opportunity for documentaries, but at the same time, the streamers themselves as platforms are relatively risk averse.
Yeah,
Do
I
you,
think that's a great point, David. I think, for us documentary filmmakers, a couple creatively, the format has exploded creatively, and it's really exciting. So you're seeing different ways to tell documentary stories. So for example, our latest film, Home is Somewhere Else, is an animated documentary. And it's 3 stories, 3 dreamers, three immigrant stories told in their voices, but all animated by different animators and linked together by a spoken word artist, also animated. So it's taking the real story and voice of someone, recreating it through animation, right? And that's expansion of the definition of documentaries in some way. And others are doing that in a lot of different ways, using narrative documentary integrated with. So the storytelling in documentary has become incredibly creative. On the business side, you're right. I mean, to me, the role of the Berkshire and other festivals is actually even more critical right now, because the streamers, they want big names and they want, a sort of juicy investigative pieces. And that's all great. And, so it's sort of, they are taking the sort of studio, big budget documentary mentality. So the indie doc filmmaker, which really is still at the core of the documentary films. And if you see a lot of the award-winning ones and important ones, they're still coming out of that arena. It's critical that the festivals stay alive and champion them as they have done in the past. And I see them as even more important right now.
yeah, I would agree with that. But it's interesting because, you say, well, most filmmakers want to know, where's the opportunity for my film to be distributed? Where can I how do I get to my audience, right?
Right.
And that, as you said earlier, I wanted to go back to that. Controlling how you reach your audience is more important in some ways than traditional distribution. It's more important that you find a way to get to your audience. And I would assume that's the way you guys are approaching Pocket Watch, and I'm sure it's the way you're approaching your documentaries now as well.
Yeah, fortunately, there's more and more ways to go directly to your audience right now. You have that freedom to distribute directly to your core audience. And Pocket Watch, obviously, we basically took the approach to say who has these massive audiences, partnering with those creators like Ryan's World, Ryan of Ryan's World, and Diana of Kid Diana Show, Toys and Colors. These are names I'm sure the parents out there may not know, but your 8 and 7, 6-year-old kids all know. They're 3 of the top 10 YouTube channels in the world. And that doesn't mean, I'm not just talking about kid channels, I'm just talking massive kids. You're talking about channels that have 2 to 3 billion views a month. Let me say that again, 2 to 3 billion views of their videos every month. So partnering with them to be able to create content with them and franchises, you've got this built-in giant audience directly that you're talking to, fandom, right? That you're taking and motivating and moving to other places where the creators want to go. So when we created Ryan's Mystery Playdate for Nickelodeon, for Nick Jr., and the show for them, and we put it on, Nick Jr. became the #1 show on preschool television because 40% of the audience that came that first season had never watched Nickelodeon. They only watched YouTube. And he was able, by his fandom, to move them over there because that's what audiences can do. So finding your affinity audience and programming it to them it's a skill and it's hard to do, but it's now available to filmmakers and to content makers.
Can we just back up for a second? I think our audience would love to know more about Pocket Watch. I mean, you and I are talking about it, we're very familiar with it, but the BIFF audience, I think, would probably want to know a little more about the company and how it started and what it actually does. Can you talk a little bit about Pocket Watch?
Sure. We started Pocket Watch about 5 years ago. Again, the premise was there's an audience out there called Generation Alpha that its #1 viewing experience is on YouTube. And the stars that they respond to and the people they love are these YouTube stars. They're not the traditional celebrities or movie stars or even sports stars. They're the kids that they see on YouTube that have massive audiences. And why was it that nobody was working with those stars to create any kind of presence off of YouTube, whether that be movies or TV shows, or games or toys or apparel or anything else that would normally go into creating massive franchises from what is in essence very successful IP. If you think of IP as books or sources, these kids were in themselves their IP. So Pocket Watch premise is to take the stars of Generation Alpha and then turn them into global franchises by creating content off of YouTube and games and other merchandise, and marketing them and promoting and creating brand awareness for them. And we've done that very successfully with Ryan, who has just recently in New York Times Magazine called the King of YouTube. And so I guess we would call ourselves the Kingmakers. But he's very successful in his amount of exposure he's gotten through all of his toys and games and content, and Diana has as well, through her Love Diana animated series that we've produced. So we try to find a match between what they do on their YouTube channel and then translate it to linear TV or movies or games and toys in a way that keeps the integrity of the brand, but translate it for a different medium.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have seen a lot of digital initiatives come and go over the past, 15, 16, 17 years since YouTube began. And I just think it's so interesting that, we talk about niche audiences, and I think what Pocket Watch has done is so unique in sort of showing how franchises can be built in a non-traditional way. People have talked about it, but Pocket Watch is actually doing it. And I think that's very significant. You're combining the power of retail, and the power of marketing with the power of content in a way that very few companies have been able to do successfully. I think that's significant. I would like to hear more about how you feel. Like, how do you see this affecting, filmmakers going forward? I mean, how can they take advantage of this, this convergence of content, marketing, retail, because obviously what everybody's talking about now is that that's what will happen in the metaverse.
Right.
And
Well, fortunately, we're in a good place. My partner Chris Williams, who founded, it was one of the main men at Maker Studios, very successful and sold that to Disney. Likes to say that we got in early and bought a great plot of land in Malibu. It may have been a rickety house, and we were it's a fixer upper, but we were in Malibu, and so now Malibu has obviously become very expensive and great real estate location, because if you see and think about the fact that people are finally acknowledging the power of this audience and its stars. And that's what I would say to filmmakers too, which is, look, we couldn't get arrested. A lot of streamers would not, like, oh, YouTube stars. Well, we want glossy, big budget, other things. But now you see, Coco Melon on Netflix is their leading, their leading piece of content, and Ryan's content on Amazon and Hulu is hitting it out of the park. And so you see the power of these people, and I think people should need to recognize. You see the TikTok stars emerging. You see emerging as big powerhouses. So you see the power of the social media stars and the IP they've created, which themselves and their work. And I would say to filmmakers, don't ignore that. And in the same way that now distributors and even private equity is acknowledging the power of these brands and IP. And I think for filmmakers, when you're looking for material, right? Like that whole premise I just said, the next SpongeBob has come from the internet, from the web. So when you're looking for IP, you're looking for stories, even stories or whatever, look to the source that is powering viewership and numbers that are unprecedented. And by the way, global. Remember, this is a global audience. We're talking to, our franchises are in 80 countries already, and we're less than 5 years old. So, these YouTube audiences and the social media audiences are global. So when you're attaching yourself there, you're getting a built-in global audience, which again is, for a filmmaker, an incredibly important source of revenue.
I maybe should know the answer to this question, but are any of the Pocket Watch properties yet involved in gaming? Because gaming seems to be a juggernaut right now.
Yes,
it's 5x what features are doing, and a company like Twitch, for instance, is they're buried inside Amazon. But if that company were to emerge from Amazon, it could be a real powerhouse as well. I'm just curious, have you guys started pushing into that
yes,
space?
I mean, we're very, let me just back up and say we're very bespoke, and we don't have a lot of creative partners and people. We don't take on, the old model was take on hundreds, maybe thousands of YouTuber channels and work with them. We've got maybe 10, and we only work at 1 to 3 of them at a time as a franchise. So it's very bespoke. It's very handcrafted. So we were very careful with Ryan to focus just on building the franchise machine, making sure it was operating properly. So yes, we have a game Tag with Ryan that does a tremendous amount of downloads every month, hugely successful. He has a video game, a PS4 game as well. He has a Roblox, most important for kids, a presence in Roblox. So he has his own Roblox game and area in the Roblox metaverse. And then for our exciting for Toys and Colors, we're building out a new world for them, a gaming world we call Kaleidoscope. And their world is Kaleidoscope City. And it's a place where you can see things from different points of view by looking through a kaleidoscope and playing games in there. And it's built on this sort of beautiful glass, kaleidoscopic, Unreal Engine animated, beautiful world by a world-class architect who designed it for us. As a real architect designed this world. So that's coming soon. But again, we see gaming as a huge frontier. Not frontier, it's here. And we certainly, as an important part of the franchise wheel for us, we just have to do each one handcrafted and slowly. But Ryan is already well established in gaming. Toys and Colors will be next.
So let's talk a little bit, without going down too far down the rabbit hole, about what this concept of the metaverse is and how it affects entertainment. Because I feel like the opportunity for creativity is tremendous in this world. And when you see that even on TikTok, they now have TikTok films. So filmmakers are now being attracted to these new platforms in a way that's very exciting. The metaverse, though, is I think still needs to be demystified for the general public outside of our industry in a lot of ways. How do you see creativity for filmmakers, pocket watch personalities and brands, sort of functioning in this world? Like, what does it actually mean to a company like Pocket Watch and to you as a producer filmmaker?
Yeah, it's going to be, that is the frontier. That's going to be the next wild
And we all
west.
joke about we should stop using the world's Wild West.
Yeah,
But this kind of is the Wild West right now, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, let's just sort of get to the definition metaverse. So think about something that's been around for a while, but building momentum now. So the idea is that you would have a virtual avatar and go into a virtual world where you would have different experiences. So original Sim City was that, and there was that sim world that was the craze a long time ago. But it's now become more and more prevalent. And to your point about gaming, probably the most successful one is Roblox, which essentially is for Generation Alpha, is for 8 and under. Fortnite, which is a little older gaming environment. They're called sandbox games. You go in there, you either create your own environment. So this is a place where your avatar and you can literally create a home, build a home or build a game or build something in there. Then you can experiencing it with your avatar, and then you can meet other people. So it's a place where your virtual self can meet other people. And for kids, it's become the safest way to meet other people because you're not showing yourself or your real self, and you're able to meet and play games with other people virtually. It's probably the most popular form for kids. But I mean, for adults, for everyone else, I mean, think of it as, different worlds coming together. The metaverse, again, is not one place. It's all of the virtual, virtual places, environments coming together. The vision that is out there, the metaverse, is that these will, just like you're going from the United States to Europe and you have different currency and language, you'll be able to go to different places in the metaverse, because at some point technology will connect you with its own virtual and technological passports.
Right, but it's moved beyond just experiential. It's now important to have, it's not just a storefront. The idea that people are getting married in the metaverse, to me, is kind of astonishing. That it's that pervasive now, that it's that encompassing, and it feels like it can house a different type of creativity for filmmakers, because there are the way there are no rules now, there are truly no rules inside that world. And I can see how video and film will connect some of these virtual worlds and virtual places. I think video will become the language of it in many ways. I just wondering if you.
Well, you also, I mean, I see the most for filmmakers, and what we're doing with Toys and Colors is the world that we're creating, because we're creating it in what's called the Unreal Engine, which is a game engine that also makes animation and makes the major games. It was a craze, it still goes on, called machinima animation, where basically you manipulate a game and you record it, and then you add voices to it to make it into a narrative. And that is something that, as a production tool, the metaverse will enable filmmakers to actually make films using the environments in the metaverse and bringing them out of the metaverse into the linear world. That's going to be a very exciting, development creatively for all of us. And remember, the true vision of the metaverse is not for you to have an avatar that's like animated and doesn't look like you. The true vision is that you will literally create this, the real person, and put them in a virtual space. And that virtual space might also be or will be photorealistic. So now we're talking more Matrix than we are Fortnite. And that's both terrifying and exciting.
I completely agree. I know that we have a room full of people who may want to ask questions. I hope, I understand my voice might be a little low. I'm trying to speak a little closer to the speaker. Does anybody have any questions for Albie Hecht? I mean, he is sort of, you know, there's very little in the entertainment industry that Albie has not been personally involved with. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we're discussing for Albie? Please.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Don't be shy. See, you're online. Nobody has to see you.
Well, I have a question. What is the, for the Berkshire Film Festival, is there a, we talk about, well, it has its own mission, but is there anything that the Berkshire Festival is looking at in the future to address the current environment or future needs or things that they see? And maybe that's a question for Kelly, I don't know, but it would be interesting for me and for other filmmakers who are out there to know if there's anything in particular Berkshire is looking to.
Well, I find this such an interesting conversation, Albie, because you're literally, you know, in some ways, I feel like you're talking Chinese. I mean, I'm trying to keep up with what metaverses are and you know, avatars and this kind of thing. I mean, I don't live in that world. I know my kids who are in their, you know, my 20s, my son 23 is, you know, very up to speed on all that. But I almost don't know what I don't know what I don't know as I'm listening to you. And I find it just fascinating that how you got from Nickelodeon to Pocket Watch. I appreciate you saying that, you know, you think festivals are still really critical. I think they are too. And we don't really, at Berkshire Film Festival, we don't really focus on this topic and gaming and all that kind of thing, because we really focus on independent film and filmmakers. And we believe that that is our space in this universe, because it is more important than ever to keep festivals alive, to have these independent filmmakers be able to tell their stories and have a space for it. I do feel like gaming and all this meta content is everywhere and accessible everywhere. And so to give it a platform at a festival, I don't know, maybe it's, you know, is it naive not to, or is it stay the course and do what we know we're good at? You know what I mean?
I think always doing what you're good at is great. And I think you're probably right. There's places like South by Southwest that sort of say that they're focusing on, maybe that's their focus. But what about kids and families?
And Tribeca's now doing it too.
Is kids and family a big part of the festival? Because I just know that the audience, like I see that, and maybe it's just me because I'm always like in this space and always like, oh, we don't, kids and family. But it really has, I mean, streamers, for example, are just acknowledging, which we all know, that the content that's on there for kids and family is driving not just retention, but subscriptions. It's such a big audience because what's interesting is there's two sides of it. One is the kids audience, the other is the adults, the nostalgia audience. So
yeah,
can't tell you how many, you know, people are like you see in Paramount. My entire slate has been rebooted and driving Paramount Plus subscriptions in a lot of ways because there's a nostalgia on that end and a relevance for a young audience because they still love good characters, good stories. So
right.
I'm just curious if there's any kids and family part of the festival that you have or consider. I haven't looked recently, to be honest. I know I know we had War Dance there, which was exciting to have in our first year, but
Yeah, I was so proud of that.
yeah. I'm just curious if kids and family are part of it.
Yeah, I mean, what we partner with New York International Children's Film Festival. So
Right.
we always have their slate of films. We love them. They're a great partner for us. We make it free to the public, the public. We put it in our most beautiful, large historical theater, and that kind of thing. And we do some family programming, absolutely, but probably not as much as we could be doing, or should be doing. But we definitely do. That's a very popular thing. Our collaboration with New York Children's Film Festival, very popular, and it's really sweet, and it's fun because it really gets kids watching short films, but they're international, and that's really sweet, and they love it.
Well, and the animation festival, Kelly, right?
What's that?
And the animation festival.
Yeah, and we partner with Palm Springs International Animated Film Festival too. So we just started that a couple of years ago as well, and that was very popular as well. So we haven't yet had it in person yet. It was initiated in COVID. So anyway, but even still, we had a pop-up drive-in, and we had 3 of those, those, and it was packed with families loaded up in cars and hanging the back window of the station wagon.
Oh, good. That sounds like a lot of fun. That's great. Thank you for responding. I appreciate that.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah, of course. Anybody else have any questions? Now Kelly Vickery is here. You have questions. You can ask questions of Kelly.
I'm so not as interesting as Albie.
Anybody in our audience have questions for Albie or Kelly? Okay.
Bashful audience.
I think Albie just basically ran the table. Yeah.
It's fascinating. I mean, it's fascinating.
It's great.
I want to hear more, but.
Well, in that case, I want to thank Albie for his time, and your relation of all this incredible history and knowledge that you can bring. I'm sure it's going to be fascinating for BIFF's audience, not all of whom will see it live today. Many of them will see it on the BIFF website as well. So,
well, great. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to getting up to the festival in person soon.
We would love it.
So we all hope we're going to be in person.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing your incredible experience and career with us. I mean, we're honored to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay.
Stay safe.
Thanks everybody for joining this month's Tea Talk. We'll see you next month. Bye-bye.